Getting married in your 50s often means you're combining lives, but not necessarily combining finances. So how do you build a retirement plan together when you both already built your own? So this episode is going to be about answering this question, specifically one that came in recently, but really going to dive into how to keep that finance separate, but also plan together.
Welcome to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast, where our goal is simple, to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. The team at Perkins Wealth Management does this by helping good people make great decisions so they can enjoy an amazing retirement. And now, here's your host and financial advisor, Lee Perkins.
Welcome in. This is My Retirement Clarity. Ben George with Lee Perkins at JL Perkins Wealth Management. And Lee, I hope things are well as we're kind of closing in on the end of the year. I know things are going to kind of be moving quickly here, but hopefully you'll have some time to enjoy the holidays. But also, I know there's a lot of planning still to do before the year's up.
Christmas decorations up. It's almost like we've forgotten about Thanksgiving. But the holiday season will go right past us as quickly as possible. But we know that this is really the time where we bear down and try to help people with tax planning, things that they can do before the calendar turns, because what are we, probably 40 or 50 days left in this calendar year that we can make some type of impact for 2025.
All right. Well, if you have questions, you want to follow up and maybe do a little end of year planning, talkwithjlp.com is the best place to start. Talkwithjlp.com. You can schedule a meeting, pick out a time that works for you. But today, talking about this kind of remarriage, getting married later in life, how do you kind of manage the finances, but also still stay on the same page in terms of planning? And I know you've gotten questions. I know you've worked through this before, Lee, but somebody come in recently that really kind of spurred this conversation. So I want to ask the question that we got and then also kind of just dive into it and kind of break it down. So here's the background. I'm about to get married. We're both in our 50s, and it will be my second marriage and her third. I'd like to keep all of our assets separate so that we each have our own financial lives and don't have to fight about money. But how do we plan for retirement if we don't really know what our total numbers look like? So this question is, before we get into it, Lee, this is a situation that a lot of people are working through right now, right?
Yeah, it really is. And it's a common question that we get here in our office. And I've had some conversations with my son, Walker, about it as I kind of teach him on some of the things that we do and how we help people. And this is one of those things that, I've been telling him since he's 12 years old. As he asked me what I do for a living, I said, Walker, I talk to people, we talk through situations, and we help solve problems. And this is one that comes up fairly frequently. And, referring to the person that wrote in here, this is not just a question that comes in from a listener of the podcast. Probably get this one maybe twice a month.
Okay.
For somebody that's either already in this situation where it's a new marriage later in life, or somebody who's thinking about doing it. So how do you do all those kind of things? And boy, my conversation is going to be steered differently here than it would for somebody that was, in their early 20s and those people that want to keep their finances separate. So I guess my generic statement here is when you're early 20s or something like that, your finances need to be married. Only in the rare circumstances does something maybe push us beyond that. But yeah, when you're in your 50s or 60s and it's a second marriage or even a third marriage for some, it complicates it. And like this listener said, you don't want to fight about it, but I think it's okay. I think it's very helpful for you to be on the same page. And I think they asked a second part of that question. I think I forgot that. Would you tell me what the second part of that?
Yeah, it's just how do you plan for retirement when you don't know what everybody's numbers look like?
I got you. So what I try to do is I want to be as open and honest and let everybody be as upfront about what they have as possible. And most of the time, people are willing to do that. Okay. Where we get into problems or issues that need to come out on the table is where one person has way more money than the other person. And there's some sense of, well, this is mine and that's theirs. And I get that, but going forward, you need to have some kind of contributions to what's going on from an income and retirement standpoint. So it's not as easy as just taking, me taking my my $700,000 and her taking her $200,000 and let's putting it all in the same pot and then going 50-50 after that. So it definitely gets complicated. And I think transparency is the best thing to do.
Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. I wanted to tell you about our brand new book called Next Phase: How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's all about helping you prepare for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you're ready to make the most of your next phase, or if you're already retired and aren't sure you're doing all you can to get the most out of your retirement, then you'll want a copy of this book. All you have to do is text Next Phase to 478-475-2050 and we'll send you a copy right away. You can also access additional resources and register for one of our upcoming workshops at our website, www.myretirementclarity.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
So how do you have that shared vision then, Lee? I mean, you know what each side has and you kind of have a good idea of your total assets, but how do you make that plan work to where you're both having a shared vision in terms of, hey, when are you going to stop working? What kind of lifestyle are you going to live? Because you're still keeping your money separate, so it impacts you both differently.
Absolutely. Well, like we talk about on the show all the time, retirement is all about cash flow. It's money in versus money out. And I think everybody has to be transparent about what money is coming in from different sources for different people. If one spouse is getting a pension and the other spouse is not entitled to a pension, okay, well, if we're not retired yet, at some point we're going to have to make a decision on whether or not we're going to leave a survivor benefit for this new spouse. And I think it's important to talk through those things. And somebody might say, well, the one who's getting a pension could say, well, I want to get the full pension. I don't owe the other person half of what it is, because if they provide that survivor benefit, their monthly amount could be reduced. So again, if we can show all money coming in, all money going out, we can try to get on the same page and work towards a common goal of having more coming in than's going out every month. And if we need to talk about taking distributions from one another's accounts to kind of fill that gap in retirement, which is a common thing to do, then we can certainly do that. And if there needs to be a different amount taken from his account versus her account, we need to know that going into the thing. So don't retire ahead of time before knowing those numbers.
Yeah, you got to know those numbers again. Talkwithjlp.com. You can schedule a time to sit down and have these conversations. This is such an important one and one that you want to have a financial professional on your side to help you with. But I know another critical part of this too is protecting each other and your families. I'm sure that's the other big challenge here, Lee, is when you're talking about planning with these separate finances, and you probably have you might have other kids outside of this remarriage, right? So how do you kind of balance that? I want to protect my family, but also make sure my new spouse is also taken care of.
Exactly. And I think this is kind of like up front. We need to go ahead and figure out the ground rules early on. Now, again, a couple who's age 50 is probably a little bit different than somebody who's age 70. Somebody who is older in life getting remarried, the first thing that their kids are going to think of is, what is the motive of this person that wants to date my mother or my grandmother? Are they in it for just the money? And so those kind of warning flags come up for people, and they genuinely want to know, well, what's going on? So when I'm meeting with somebody that's older, that may be in those mid 60s or late 60s and they're remarrying, many times there's already a mutual decision that what's his is his and what's hers is hers. It's probably a little bit easier to do because at that point they're generally already retired. It's a little bit easier to do than somebody who's in their early 50s and maybe they're still working and still sort of in that accumulation phase. When they're in the distribution phase, once they're already retired, then it's a little bit easier. And I think it's important for each person to tell their kids, hey, we've agreed that what's mine is mine and it's going to ultimately go to my children, and what's his is his or hers is hers is ultimately going to go to their children, so that the kids don't have to worry about somebody else getting their quote inheritance that they're entitled to. And I don't like to use the word entitlement too much, but ultimately that's what it comes down to. And I run across more people that say, hey, my parents' money, it's their money. They can do whatever they want with it. And that is 100% true. But they don't want somebody that just married their mom for 6 months and their mom dies and that person to get all their money. That's where things can kind of go go sideways, and attorneys usually get involved. So just know the ground rules up front. Make sure that you and your family is taken care of.
And how much of this is really about, emotion as much as like the financial side of it? Because, it's all about having that trust, right? And knowing that, the other person is doing their part in this. It's got to be difficult, but I guess that's also the kind of the role that you play in this, isn't it?
100%. I had a conversation with somebody today, and we had the exact same conversation of what you and I are talking about today. And I just had the conversation with him. I've met with her before, met them both at the same time. And it's important that they stay on the same page. And if they feel like there's maybe somebody's getting off the path a little bit on what they've not obligated themselves to, but sort of kind of the upfront agreement of what we're going to do going forward, maybe that's a good time to come in and have that conversation. So I'm going to meet with this couple after the first of the year and just go over things and make sure that everybody's on the same page. I am a neutral third party, so to speak. I don't have a dog in this fight. My dog in the fight is to make sure that when they do retire, there's no animosity. There's no financial animosity between the two. I want them to live in financial peace going forward.
Well, you can schedule a meeting with J.L. Perkins Wealth Management. Just go to talkwithjlp.com. Very simple, easy to do. You'll find the calendar there. Find a time that works for you. You can kind of be off and running. And I'm sure that anybody kind of in this situation is wondering the best practice. But again, having a financial professional on your side to help you through this can make things so much easier. So J.L. Perkins Wealth Management can help you with that. And again, has experience doing it. As multiple people over the last even couple of months have brought the same idea up. So important to talk through. Anything else, Lee, kind of to finish with as we kind of close this one out?
Yeah, I would say if you're in a relationship and you're considering, and maybe it's going to the next level to where marriage is going to be in the future, go in and have these conversations up front. You don't want to be in a marital relationship with somebody that you're not on the same page financially. And I'm not saying you have to be financial equals when you're in their 50s and 60s in a second or third marriage. That's not what I'm saying. But you need to be on the same page about what those finances look like. So sooner rather than earlier is a very good thing to have that conversation. You don't wait too late.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully this kind of helps you out a little bit, gives you some things to think about. And again, if you need help, please reach out. We always encourage anyone with questions, whether or not it's about this, anything financial related that you have questions with or want to begin kind of planning for your future to make sure you have confidence later in life. Go to talkwithjlp.com. Well, that'll do it for us here on My Retirement Clarity. For Lee Perkins at J.L. Perkins Wealth Management there in beautiful Macon, Georgia. I am Ben George. Have a good week.
Take care. You too, man. Hey there, Lee Perkins here. If you're like a lot of folks, you've been listening to this podcast for a long time now. But I've got an important question for you. Have you implemented any of the ideas that we've discussed on the show? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know you're not getting any younger. So here's my challenge. Don't just consume the content. Our number one goal for this podcast is to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. So if you're ready to implement, take that first step today and visit www.talkwithjlp.com and schedule a 15-minute phone call with one of our advisors, and we'll help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement so you can enjoy the next phase of your life. Now is your time. Don't procrastinate any longer.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.